Nobody goes to this Spanish city, and I'm going to find out why. Most people I know have been to Barcelona. I don't know anyone who's been to Zaragoza. However, it is Spain's fourth biggest city, so there must be some things to do here. I'm only in the city for one day, but I'm going to find out what are the best things to do in Zaragoza, if it is a city worth visiting, and why no other tourists come here. So, a potted history of Zaragoza. The first people here were the Iberians. And the Iberians were around about the same time as the Celts. And actually, the Celts were in the north of Spain, in the Basque region where we've just been, but the Iberians were elsewhere. Then along came the Romans, and the Romans conquered Zaragoza and a lot of Spain. And here we have some of the remains of the Roman wall. In the Roman times, it was named Casugusto, similar to that. It was named after this guy, Caesar Augusto. We'll come back to him in a moment. The Romans built a lot of architecture in Zaragoza, and apparently every time they start digging somewhere, they find another Roman ruin. We'll see some more of that a bit later on in the video, which is why they can't have a metro here. They have the trams instead. I've been very impressed by how many cities have metros in Spain. But yeah, no metro in Zaragoza because there's just too many Roman ruins underneath. This is one of the northernmost areas that the Moors got to. And again, we'll talk a bit more about that later on. Then there was the sort of conversion to Christianity, there was the Spanish Inquisition. But the most important historical thing to happen here was a siege during the Napoleonic Wars. So during the Napoleonic Wars, the army surrounded Zaragoza for 2 months and sieged the city, left. Then they came back for 2 more months, and after 2 more months they did manage to invade Zaragoza. 2/3 of the people were killed and the city was basically flattened. So even though it is a super historic city, not that many buildings date back to pre-Napoleonic times. The other historical event that is worth mentioning in Zaragoza is the Spanish Civil War. So the Spanish Civil War was 1936 to 1939, and it was between the Franco and his army basically and the Republicans. Franco won and Franco became the Spanish dictator until the 1970s, and Zaragoza was on the side of Franco. So this did mean that Zaragoza wasn't so much affected during the Spanish Civil War. However, let's come back to this statue because this is actually an interesting piece of Civil War / World War II history. This was given to Franco by none other than Mussolini, and it's thought that it was given to Franco by Mussolini as a kind of fraternal motive to garner Franco's support in the Second World War. Although it's not so much of a visited city, it does have a really fascinating and quite complex history. I guess part of the reason why it's not so well known is because of this Napoleonic siege, which meant that the buildings pre this era don't exist as much. That's not to say that there aren't beautiful buildings, such as this one here. Now, another interesting fact is about this tower. I'm sure you can see on the screen that it is leaning. It is the Leaning Tower of Zaragoza. And this is purely because it's been built near a river and the rocks here aren't really hard enough to support structures of big towers, which meant that, at least back in the day, when modern technology wasn't around to sort of straighten them out, a lot of the towers were leaning. This one has been fortified. It's not going to fall down, so don't worry. However, we are going to speak about another one which didn't quite have the same fate, sadly. I did think as soon as I saw this, oh, I wonder if you can go up it, but I was quickly informed that you cannot go up it. I guess that's to help with it staying fortified. And it looks like there's a wedding here. It's Saturday, so wedding day in Zaragoza. So we were told that due to the Napoleonic siege that there's still some buildings with holes in, and you can actually see some holes here. So I wonder if this was part of the siege as well. Yeah, there's holes in the wall here. And none of this is due to the Spanish Civil War because Zaragoza wasn't really affected by the Spanish Civil War. Not in the same way other places were. So I'm guessing these are all 200 years old from the siege. We are currently in the central market and we're not going to get a full lunch, but we are looking for a vegetarian snack that we can get. I was like, that looks good, Montaditos, but I think it's all meat. It's called entre carne. Migas. Oh yeah. So these are migas, and they are breadcrumbs. Yeah. And these are traditional throughout all of Spain, but the Aragoneses ones have sausages, grapes, and an egg on top. Our guide did tell us that the prices here are the same price as any market in the city, that they haven't like bumped the prices up because it's not really a touristy city. You do find that prices generally are lower than they are in the really popular Spanish cities. Hay croquetas vegetarianos. Queso, sí. ¿Eso es vegetariano? Esta, sí. ¿Eso es setas? Setas, solo setas. Okay. ¿Podemos tener una mezcla? Paid slightly more than we thought we were going to for these. Was €10 for 5 croquettes. 5 croquetas even. It was all in Spanish, and the lady serving us did tell me something which I didn't get. So yeah, I don't know if there was a deal or something on. So this is either mushroom or queso. I'm not too sure.
Keep us going.
Yeah. Just an interesting market find for you. This is borracha. Not to be confused with borracha, which means drunk. And this is a vegetable that you will only find in Aragon. So you won't get it anywhere else in Spain. And apparently elsewhere in Spain, people don't even know it exists. It looks like celery to me, but apparently it doesn't taste like any other vegetable. It doesn't really taste like anything really. But it's quite a popular dish for people to eat at home. You find it out in restaurants less. But if we do see some, I will try it. Now, another thing that's worth mentioning about Zaragoza, which also might be why it doesn't get that many tourists, is it's not really a winter sun destination. So it is quite cold in the winter. It is the 22nd of March and it's 16 degrees and cloudy, which, to be honest, I'm okay with. We had a bit of sun earlier. It's warm enough to be walking around without a coat, which I'm happy with for March. But apparently in January it is very cold for Spain. It's also known to be a very, very windy city. Chicago of Spain, if you will. Yeah, I'm guessing that is because we're higher than a lot of places around. Oh, actually, I did a little bit more research and there's actually a whole thing about Zaragoza's wind. So Zaragoza's windy reputation stems from the Cierzo, a strong, dry and cold wind that blows from the northwest, often reaching speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour. This wind is a result of pressure differences between the Bay of Biscay and the Mediterranean Sea, particularly during autumn and winter. So, yeah, I guess we're kind of halfway here between the Bay of Biscay, where we have been, and the Mediterranean coastline, like the east coastline of Spain, which is like where Barcelona is. So it's just the pressure and it kind of meets here. I guess that is another reason why people don't come as much if it's not known as a sun trap. But today it's okay. There's been a bit of wind, but generally it's been a lighter breeze. Here we are at the 17th century Church of Elizabeth of Portugal. Now, there are lots of churches in Zaragoza, like anywhere in Spain, but this church is particularly interesting because it has an unusual feature. Well, 2 unusual features on its facade. So, this is the first one, and the second one is all the way up here. And they're the same thing. They are the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Aragon. It's not really usual for a church to have a coat of arms like that on. They're not so much governmental buildings. But the reason this was put on was literally just because it was the Kingdom of Aragon kind of government that paid for it. So they wanted to have their coat of arms here, just so everyone knew that they paid for it, just as kind of a wealth flex, really. Which I feel like kind of juxtaposes the fact that it is a religious house. And apparently, because it is run by the government council, it does mean that the church is very rarely open. It only really opens for celebrations like weddings and christenings and the like, and you can't just go in. So we can admire it from the outside. Apparently as well, this coat of arms is all over the place on the inside. We walked down this street earlier and it's a bit busier now, but it was, I mean, a bit busier, I mean it has, I can see about 7 people, but this morning it was so quiet. But we realised it's where all the bars are. It looks really like, yeah, like dead at the moment, but I'm sure in a few hours, or well, 1:30 now, so 8 hours or so, Saturday night, I'm sure it'll be pumping You can get a litre of beer for €6 here. You want to try one of the €6 litres of beer, Rich?
It's a deal. It's a deal. €6 for a pint. No, more than that.
Yeah, true. Actually, when we walked down earlier, there's somewhere that looked more like a club just down here, and it looked like they were still clearing up from last night. Was this the club? Oh, it even says in club. Yeah, this was open and they were clearing up from the night before, but I don't know, I mean, we were walking down about 10 a.m, so it could have only finished 4 hours before. There is no way I could handle Spanish nightlife these days. Ah, this is where we wanted to come, wasn't it? So this is a mural depicting what is called the New Tower, but it's not new, and sadly it's no longer a tower. So a 16th century tower, which was built as a clock tower, was built right here. You can see where the colour of the ground changes. Black tiles here and more red terracotta here. That is where the tower was located. So it was built in the 16th century, and the 16th century was after Spain had reverted to Christianity. However, there were still Muslims living here. At the time, Muslims were known for their excellent craftsmanship, and their rates were also less than Christians. So they were actually commissioned to create this bell tower, and it was a beautiful bell tower. Because it was built by the Moors, it looked more reminiscent of a tower like a minaret that you might find in Morocco, had the traditional Islamic architecture look. So from the sort of photos and the images I've seen, it looks absolutely stunning. But there was one big problem. That was that it lent 3 metres, which is quite a way. It was standing for about 300 years, but in the 19th century, this area of Zaragoza became very wealthy. There were a lot of business people sort of took up their homes here. They started to say, we don't want this tower here, it's leaning so much, I'm worried it's going to fall on me. It had been standing for 300 years without issue, but obviously you don't know, it was leaning a lot. There was a lot of resistance towards it because it was a real heritage attraction of Zaragoza, but in the end the people kind of with the money and with the power did overrule that it had to be demolished. What they did, however, was very sneaky. They said to everyone who didn't want the tower to be pulled down that they could have one more chance to go up it and have a look around it, but they charged them for a ticket and they used that money to demolish the tower. So it was actually the people who loved the tower the most that ended up paying for it to be demolished. So this was in the 19th century. In more recent times they decided to commemorate where the tower was by that change in the floor, and also this guy. So this guy's meant to represent a child who is looking and just being amazed at this tower, and it sounds like it was amazing. I actually did see a very early photo of the tower next to this church tower, and the tower which was there was 3 times the height, so it would have gone up and up and up. There have actually been calls to reinstate the tower and use modern technology to create the same tower, the same look, also leaning 3 metres, but obviously in the modern era we can create that without it being at risk of falling down, but ultimately they decided not to. I think there are many other heritage attractions in Zaragoza that are already here that need the money put into them. It would have cost millions and millions of euros, so ultimately it was decided that it wasn't worth it. It does make me think, if there was such a tower here, people know Pisa, people go all over the place to go to Pisa. I remember hearing about Pisa when I was a child. If there was a similar tower here, then maybe Zaragoza would be more touristy. So yeah, I do get the feeling that the later you go out in Spain, the more people there are, because this was all very quiet this morning, but it's a bit more lively now, but nowhere near as busy as a lot of Spanish cities that I've been to. But I think it's because it's just locals here. Like, Zaragoza is the 4th biggest city in Spain, but I can't see much, like in English, I can't see much English language stuff, which is great. I'm saying that as a good thing. You know, I try and speak as much Spanish as I can. It feels like what a lot of the cities would be like if there weren't tourists. This is El Tubo, the tube, and it's known as so because of its winding alleyways and that are full with places to eat, grab a drink. The idea is that you just sort of hop. Bar crawls are very big here. You just go from place to place, grab a tap out wherever you go, grab a drink wherever you go, and then you finish. She said you end up full and drunk. It is busy now. Yeah. Honestly, this is wild. It must have only been a couple of hours ago we walked up here, and it's completely transformed. But I'm not hearing any English, which is great. I have to go here. We found a table. What we do, I've got no idea. I don't know if. Do you think someone comes out and serves us, or do you think we have to go in?
Clearing stuff up.
Yeah. I feel like now we've found a space and we have to hold it. Don't know if we can move anywhere else.
Cheers.
So it is table service, so we ordered at the table, which was good. Then they come over with the food, pop it down, and then you come over with the card machine, and then you pay card or cash there and then. We've got, well, these are Richard's anchovies. They look interesting. There you go. And we've got one of these each as well, and hopefully we're getting some patatas too. Otherwise my lunch is going to be rather meagre. I just asked for copa de vino blanco, which is this, and it's all right. It tastes, you can taste the grapes quite a lot. Not as nice as the house wine I had yesterday, but it'll do. Now, another thing that you should know about Zaragoza is that they have what they call the best beer in the world, and it's not just them saying it. There is a reason. Richard has not a pint. What is that? Is that a jarra?
Oh yeah, it's a jarra.
Okay, that's a jarra.
Like a grand bit, a
Yeah.
big bit. Called Amber. Amber. It's been brewed here since 1900, I think. So it's actually one of the oldest breweries in Spain. Is here in Zaragoza. Or one of the oldest still continuously brewing breweries. Claim this is the best beer, not just in Spain, but in the world. Because last year, the Amber won a prestigious beer challenge award, I think, and it got 4 marks from all the judges. It got all the gold medals, etc. It literally was classed as the best beer in the competition anyway. So now the locals are saying that obviously this is the best beer in the world, and it's not bad.
There you go. If you like beer, then come to Zaragoza. How's the? Have you tried that yet?
Just trying it.
Oh, we're just trying it. All right, let's get your first reaction. Good.
It might actually be chocolate.
Is it like a mole, or is it actually?
A mole.
Oh. To be fair, if I ate fish, I'd try it. El Tubo está loco. There's so much going on here. There's hen do's, stag do's, there's people in sports shirts, there's just so many people wearing matching outfits, all going around marching. Everyone is drunk. Yeah, there's a real sense of celebration in the air. Seen a couple of weddings, seen a few hen do's, stag do's. Everyone just seems to be out partying, although this is quieter. We're away from El Tubo now. We're back in the kind of shopping area. We're off to find some Roman ruins. So here we have it, the Roman theatre. It's just a tiny little segment of what used to be the Roman theatre, but it is right in the middle of the city. We're just a 2-minute walk from El Tubo, where we were. And they've managed to excavate part of it, but this up here is a church, and they can't excavate below the church, even though there's almost certainly more ruins below there. It's also, this roof was put in place to protect what remains of the theatre, but apparently this was the height that the theatre was. The theatre was so big it could fit 6,000 people, or more than 6,000 people. There were only 10,000 people in the Roman city at the time, so it could fit well over 60%, nearly 2/3 of the people. Historians do think there is a reason for that, but they aren't sure why. It's still being investigated. So, I don't know, could it have been a city that drew people from other Roman cities? Is there some importance of Zaragoza that historians don't know about yet? Another mystery of the Spanish city. Now, it is widely thought that there was another amphitheatre outside the Roman walls, but they haven't found it yet. They are pretty sure that they will find it. They're pretty sure that it exists and that it is underground. Maybe one day they will excavate it and have it for people to see. But for now, this is what we've got. Pretty impressive. So this is the seal, the main cathedral. It costs like €7-8 to go in, so I don't think we are going to go in, even though I have seen a picture and it does look very magnificent inside, but I've been inside many cathedrals in my day. Actually, there is a little photo there. Next best thing. This is what it looks like inside. I'm actually going to walk round the corner and show you the wall over here, because there's an interesting anomaly here. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the time Muslim people who lived here did a lot of the building and the architecture and design. So if you look at this looks very Islamic. The facade here. And that is because it was made by Muslim builders, Muslim architects even, who were more skilled. But what I found really interesting was at the top of this window, you can probably see there's a moon. And there's another one here. Obviously, a moon is representative of Islam. Now, you might think this is because it was a mosque at some point, but it's not. This was built as a Christian church, and the moon actually has nothing to do with Islam. It was that the bishop's surname was Luna, which is moon in Spanish, and his coat of arms, of a family coat of arms, had a moon on it, and he basically just wanted there to be a moon on the design here to show that it was him who had commissioned it and had paid for it, basically. We're going to head to the Basilica now. And the Basilica is free to enter, so we will go in. The Basilica is called, get the proper name up, or this whole area is called Cathedral Basilica de Nuestra Señora de la Pilar. After Jesus died, Santiago, who was St. James, I think, came here from Jerusalem. The first city that he came to was Zaragoza. He came here from Jerusalem to convert as many people to Christianity as possible. The first city that he came to was Zaragoza, and he converted a record number of people here. 7. So there were 10,000 people here at the time, and he managed to convert 7 to Christianity. Bear in mind, this was like just after Jesus died. So he came here and he was like, I've met the Son of God. Obviously this was long before modern communication, so I think even the fact that he convinced 7 people was probably impressive. And he went down to the river with the 7 people he converted, and they prayed down by the river, and a miracle happened. And it was that the Virgin Mary appeared, and she appeared on a pillar. So this is why it's called La Pila. So he promised the Virgin Mary that he would build a church in her honour in Zaragoza. And it isn't this church. This church is not that old. But the conception of this basilica was made on that. Another miracle that apparently happened here was that a man was hit by a horse and cart one day, and he lost both of his legs. And he said that at Zaragoza he had a vision, and it was a vision of the Virgin Mary, and he had both of his legs again. And this was very widely believed throughout all of Spain, so much so even the King of Spain granted him a reception and knelt before him and kissed his legs, I think. And when this happened, Zaragoza became a place of pilgrimage. So actually, even though Zaragoza isn't a hugely visited city then, it was a very popular pilgrim city back in the day. And a third miracle happened at this basilica as well. So Zaragoza wasn't very much affected by the Spanish Civil War because it was on the side of Franco, and it was generally the cities that weren't on the side of Franco where there were wars. However, it did have bombs dropped on it. It had 4 bombs dropped on it, including 2 on this very building. But the 2 that were dropped on this building didn't go off. They didn't have the kind of explosive in them that would make them go off, so they never were going to go off. It's thought that Franco said that this was a miracle from the Virgin Mary. He thought that proved that he was on the winning side of the Spanish Civil War, a war that he did end up winning, but obviously he was a ruthless dictator. For sure, one of the most important spots of Zaragoza. There is a bit of a queue, but as it's free to go in, I think we will get in the queue and have a little look around. Another fun fact that I didn't know about Zaragoza is that this is the biggest pedestrian square in the entire European Union. We've joined the wrong queue. So you can get these ribbons that are the exact height of the statue of the Virgin Mary that's in the Basilica. They're only €1 and they're supposed to bring immense good luck. But we weren't intending to buy one, but we've accidentally joined the queue to buy one. How far up does it go?
Quite far.
They're only €1, so we're debating whether to just buy one now. I don't know if you can pay by card. Should we just go? All right. We've decided against getting a tape, so hopefully we don't have any bad luck. But what we should have done is just walk straight in here. I think this is the chapel of the Virgin Mary. So these are the 2 bombs that were dropped on the Basilica during the Spanish Civil War. They didn't go off. They're actually on display here now. As this is a basilica, this probably means that a saint is buried here. We're thinking, is it most likely to be Santiago? Potentially. Oh, this is Zaragoza de Alhaferia. This might be the Virgin Chapel. Not sure. This is I think it's the pillar that you can kiss. And so many people have kissed it that it has actually looked like a perfect face shape. Not very winter virus friendly, I don't think. There is also a vending machine where you can get these ribbons that are the same size as the Virgin Mary. We would have actually gotten one, but it's cash only. Apparently they're meant to bring great luck, but they only work if you're given them. You can't buy one yourself. This is El Palacio de Alhaferia, and this is a Moorish palace that is still in use today by the Aragonese Parliament. So this castle, palace, dates back to the 11th century, which is when the Moors were in Zaragoza. You can go in and look around. We were told it costs around €7 to do so, and the inside does look very beautiful. It is a 20-minute walk from the city centre. We didn't want to make the walk earlier, and now it is closed, which is a shame. I think this is quite a fitting place to end this video. So Zaragoza is not a touristy city at all, and it's been great for me because I'm trying to speak as much Spanish as I can. I've spoken Spanish a lot today. No one's really reverted to talking to me in English, which is excellent. So I'd say if you want to go somewhere where you can see the real Spain, learn a bit more about Spanish culture, and talk a bit more Spanish, then Zaragoza is an excellent option. It doesn't have a huge amount of attractions, and that plus the weather is probably why it doesn't get so many tourists. I do feel like we've pretty much done it in a day, but if you're passing through, or if you just want to go to a Spanish city that feels a bit more local, eat some tapas, drink some Spanish wine, then Zaragoza is an excellent option, especially in the warm months. It's been all right today, but apparently it does get quite cold in the winter. Maybe visit in April onwards. So thank you so much for watching this video. We are sticking around in Spain for a couple of weeks still, so I have plenty more videos to come. Tomorrow we're going to be taking a train all the way to the south of Spain, and I think I'm going to record a Spanish train tips video because I've taken quite a lot of Renfe trains over the last year. If you're sticking around, I recommend checking out this video about the fascinating Canfranc Hotel, which we visited yesterday. Thank you so much, and I hope I will see you next time. Bye!